even graduated yet. Let us know how far along you guys are in your nursing journey. You can use the chat box.
We
With
love,
me today. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say we love seeing where everyone's from.
Yeah. With me today is Professor Allison. If you guys don't know, we do webinars every single week and NCLEX webinars about twice a month. And Professor Allison's been a nurse for a decade and now
Well,
a
instructor
professor.
for a decade.
Oh, there you go. Man, see,
Nurse for
we're
nurse for a bit longer than that.
too long to admit. How about that? Like,
Yeah.
I was literally just talking about it yesterday. I'm like, man, it's been 2012-ish, 13 when I graduated. I'm like, wow, it's been crazy long ago. So,
It's so funny. Like a lot of times during lecture, I catch myself saying back in my day, and it really
yeah,
makes me feel old. Like back in my day, we used Scantrons. Back in my day, select all apply. It was never one or all, at
yeah,
least two, never all.
yeah.
But welcome,
Exactly.
everyone.
Well, welcome, guys. Let's see where everyone's from. Go ahead and drop it in the chat here. And also, we are recording this, I believe, and we're going to be posting it, I believe, on our social media channels here. So if you miss anything, you'll be fine. You have to go somewhere. It's okay. All right, Mikia in last semester nursing school. Iman is from Jordan. No way. Nice. Date of graduation 2008. Wow. Okay. Sarah Samuel. All right. Marlon from Long Beach. Very cool. Anna from SoCal, where I'm from. All right, got some New Yorkers in here. Very nice.
Nice.
Oops, let me see here. So, guys, today we're talking about how to learn before you earn, or learn more to earn more. And with us today here is Joe. She is the youngest spring chicken that we have on staff here. She's been a new grad for I think 18 months, 2 years, something like that.
Almost 3 years.
Almost 3 years. Okay, you're getting up there now. All right. But she's our subject matter expert in terms of everything you guys need to know as a new grad. We're going to be showing you our tips and tricks, and we're going to have Joe chime in as a new grad herself and kind of showing you guys the ropes because she's the most recent um, new nurse on our team here. All right, guys. Ashley from Naples, Florida. Very cool. You took your boards in March. You start work in April. Very nice. Iman, very old. Okay. So
Um, I also see that we have some people that are finishing up nursing school. We have someone who has NCLEX next week. For any of you who are still getting ready to take NCLEX, and someone else in the last semester, we also have a webinar tomorrow that you are welcome to join as well. Two different types, two different focuses. Both, we love doing them. We love helping you guys give tips, giving you guys tips and tricks and whatnot, either to help you pass your boards or when it comes to being a new grad nurse.
heck yeah. And I love Jennifer here. She is a clinical nurse instructor in Florida and graduated in 1989. Wow. That's amazing.
That's so cool. I love that.
I know my brother was born in 1984. That's the year that they outlawed smoking in the hospital, uh, which is crazy to me. All the nurses and doctors used to smoke at the breaks
Mhm.
at the nurses station.
That's crazy that it was that recent.
That I know, and I'm like, this makes a lot more sense of how my brother, turned out. No, no, I'm just kidding.
There's just too many like tanks like going off, like you see those Grey's Anatomies where they like don't have that cigarette and like it blows up because they were on
Yeah,
smoke.
yeah, yeah, with the oxygen
Right,
and stuff.
right.
Crazy. Well, guys, welcome here. Thank you guys so much for chiming in. There's a lot of you guys all over the world from different countries as well. And just want to let you know that you made it. We're here to start the party, and we're going to give you all the insider tips and tricks of how to earn the most. But you have to learn before you earn. And we're going to show you guys behind the veil of what you can expect. And if you're an instructor, I believe you're like Jennifer, if I got it right. Please let your students know that we do these webinars often. And also, we have our NCLEX webinars every 2 weeks. And if you're just tuning in, Professor Allison is with us, who's a clinical instructor, as well as now you're teaching med surg, and you have a lot of departments on now, which is
Teaching a
really
lot of different courses now. Got my hands in a lot of different buckets, but I
yeah,
taught pretty much all across the nursing curriculum.
Very cool, man. That's yeah. And then also Nurse Joe's here, who is our most recent new graduate nurse, who's been a nurse for a couple of years, coming up on three, and she's now working in Mother Baby, I think, which is kind of cool.
I am
All right.
labor and delivery.
Yeah, very cool. Makia, you're asking where can you register for the NCLEX webinars? Um, I believe we open those up as open houses for everyone on YouTube, but I think that's only every other week. You have to have a civil nursing membership on the NCLEX side to access all of them. But we're going to drop the link right here as Nurse Joe did the NCLEX cram session. But guys, this is something I'm really excited about. It's my little baby, my pride and joy. We just launched a new grad membership course because naturally we help you through nursing school with our thousands of videos and downloads and question bank. And we help you with the NCLEX. If you guys didn't know, we have an NCLEX question bank with 1,000 video rationales that walk you through all the new gen questions, something that Archer and UWorld don't do. And we have a NCLEX lecture series that condenses all of nursing school in a matter of 4 days, so 4 day blocks. And naturally, we're going to help you through nursing school. We're going to help you through NCLEX. So why don't we? This happened like 2 years ago. We're like, why don't we, like no one else is doing, help new grads get a job, fill out their resume, have a skills refresher library where they can click one button and all their skills are in 60 seconds or 90 seconds from Foley to IV, refresh your memory instantly. Also, career guidance, how to negotiate your pay, and the best part is we rolled it all into one course that has 30 plus videos with all the skill stuff you'll ever need. And you get CEUs because now you have to maintain your license. So you get CEUs and you get to know how to get your job, interview questions. We sat down with hiring managers at some of the biggest Ivy League hospitals from Cedars-Sinai to the City of Hope to University of Maryland. And we put it all into this beautiful, handcrafted little baby, I call it, because it's our new grad membership we just launched a few months ago. So we're gonna have special access for you guys with a discount code at the very end, so you guys can get access to that. So, and we just dropped the link as well. So it's really fun. So if you're ever scared about, getting the job, interview questions, whatever it is, we have everything you'll ever need, and it's only getting better. So, what to expect from this session? We're going to get real about the challenges of transitioning from nursing school, which I call a driver's ed school, to real world nursing, which again I call it driver's ed because you guys know everyone has probably a license where they took driver's course and it's not like real driving. It's like, everything's a textbook, but when you actually get into real world nursing, it's totally different. So we're going to give you guys a behind the scenes look at what to expect, also expert advice about the impact of continuous learning throughout your career and how to get that increased pay for your paycheck because nursing is very interesting, is that nurses are in high demand, and we're going to show you guys how exactly to negotiate and get the best pay. And again, you just have to learn the tactics, which we're going to show you today. You learn before you earn. And housekeeping here, we're answering Q&As. So go ahead and drop your questions not in the general chat because it's going to get lost. Throw it in the Q&A. There's a little Q&A button and drop it in any time. And we are going to check those at the very end and answer all your questions. Any tech issues, use the chat button. But again, use the Q&As. And if you guys are joining live via YouTube, please submit your questions in the comments section below. On YouTube, we're going to pull out some questions, throw them in the Q&A, and answer them as well. Whew. All right. So, the webinar also is being recorded, so don't worry if you're just tuning in. We're going to send out to you guys via email, anyone in this Zoom, and I believe we're posting it on YouTube as well. So, without further ado, let's get into it. We're going to show you guys how to learn before you earn, or learn more to earn more, and the power of lifelong learning here. So, as you guys know, you are lifelong learners. You just don't pass nursing school and pass your NCLEX, and then your learning stops. They call it practice, like you're practicing medicine, because you're literally learning something new every day. Like they literally just changed CPR again, instead of um, what's it called? Look, listen, and feel, and then check for breathing. Now it's called CAB. We're doing compressions first and then airway and breathing, which is crazy. So just know things are probably going to change again. So again, learning builds confidence, knowledge, and earning potential here. So why learning matters? Number one, the more confident you are, the stronger decision making and leadership potential you have. So, I mean, Professor Allison and Joe can probably speak on this a lot, where it's like, as a new grad, you don't even feel comfortable until I believe it was like 12 months to sometimes 18 months, depending on which specialty. Like, Joe, how long did it take for you to feel comfortable as a new nurse?
Sure. So I would definitely say that the first like 3 months were really difficult because you're like training and you're orienting and you're like, what am I doing? How do I get the flow sheets down? The time management of it all. But I would say I started to feel, but I went into it with grace, being like, okay, you're not incompetent. You don't know anything in real life nursing yet, but
Mhm.
it's okay. This is my excuse in my 1 year new grad program at the hospital I was at, or I'm at. And it gave me that feeling of like, this is my time to learn, and it's okay for me to ask questions. So at 6 months, it started to feel a little bit better. And
Mhm.
then you'd have a code blue or two. And then you're just, it just really when one thing that really helped for Mike when my first day, I was working for simple nursing for 2.5 years now, and Mike sent a video to me on my first day of my UC Davis new grad program, which is like one of the best new grad programs to go to. That's why I was like, okay, I'll do med surge because it was the best program. Mike sent me a video on my phone. He's like, just be there, have open ears, maybe like you said, open ears, closed lips, or something like that. Like you're in a
Yeah.
new home, just really soak in. I know it can be hard because they want to eat their young, and you can't really read everything right now when it comes to people because they're still getting to know you, and you're eager, but you want to be too eager because then you might be annoying, and you're just like, I want to
Yeah.
be teachable. He's like, you know, just take it day by day. And just remember, always be teachable, always be humble. And those have always been words of guidance for me. So give yourself a first, like 1 year to really, you know, not freak out about, oh, I really suck at time management. But
Yeah.
if you need to listen to podcasts, Mike has money. If you need to pick up different videos, or don't be afraid to say, I don't know, and then go and research things. So I would say 3 months, you're still like anxiety. 6 months starts to go down, but don't get complacent. And at 1 year, you start to get the time management down
Mhm.
more with all of the meds and all of the conditions. But again, it
And
just
all the
depends.
charting, all the charting too. I think
All
one
the
of my
starting.
I think one of my favorite phrases that we coined when we were filming the new grad course was, "This is the time that you get to be new."
Mhm.
You only get one shot at being a new grad, and then you can be new in different departments, but still, like, that's the time when hopefully the people around you are giving the most grace, so take it. Sometimes we want to hit the ground running so much and feel like we have something to prove, but you get to be new, you get to be a sponge. And so allowing yourself that grace, and especially like being open to like steps to take, asking questions and be open to actual feedback. And
Mhm.
remember, it's okay if you make mistakes, if you didn't know, or because sometimes those are the best learning opportunities for the future. You
Mhm.
know, and there's nothing like your first code, nothing like it. And you learn so much from that. And so it only helps to further move the needle in the right direction. And it can be very humbling, but at the same time, that's how you grow.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because this is just a little tiny piece of the dozens of videos in the new grad prep course. We go through how to time manage,
Mhm.
how to master critical thinking skills, what to do to win over your preceptors. We sit down with a new grad named Lauren and also Professor Allison and a few other new grads themselves. And also we sit down with preceptors and we ask them like, where do new grads mess up the most? And they just spill the beans to us
Mhm.
behind the scenes. So again, that's in our new grad prep course. We're going to give you guys
Mhm.
the QR code and discount, and we're going to drop the link as well here if that's something you're interested in, and if you want to make a huge impact and have a step ahead as a new grad. But again, all this goes back to saying bullet point number two, knowledge results in specialized expertise, and
Mhm.
that is the biggest thing that employers pay more for. So getting specialized, getting your certs, like if you're in critical care, you should have your CCRN. Obviously, you can't even work in critical care without ACLS. If you're in
Mhm.
peds, you need PALS, which is advanced life support for pediatrics. But getting those extra steps for certifications,
Mhm.
like for med surg, if you become, wound care certified, then you
Mhm.
can make more money and earning potential there. Um, and these are like little things that you kind of hear in passing. And as a new grad, there's just a lot of information being thrown at you. And so these little things fall through the cracks, but it makes a huge impact in terms of your compensation in the future. And then
Mhm.
number three is continuous learning leads to long-term career growth and higher salaries. So my biggest recommendation, if you guys want to pay off your student loans faster, or if you just want to have a leg up on your personal finances, I would say get at least 1 year working experience in a specialty, any specialty, and then apply for a travel nurse in your local area. And I believe you have to travel a certain distance, like 50 miles, to get that travel pay. But in certain cases, you guys can double your income um, and only, work in almost the same exact area
Mhm.
um, that you're getting paid the regular pay. So that's a big hack. So, what are other steps we can take, Allison, on the right side here?
So always asking questions, getting feedback, trying to get more understanding. Even like things like were there courses that you took, or was there trainings that, ask older people, or not older necessarily, but people who have more experience, who've been there for longer. What are some things that really helped you? And what are some ways that or are there any, trainings that you recommend, any continuing education courses that you felt like were really helpful? Especially staying up to date on new knowledge, skills, best practices, because they're changing all the time. Even in my first job as a nurse, I worked in an ortho unit. And one of the things that was different than what I'd learned in school, and I just graduated and was kind of shifting and changing, was doing Holman sign to check for a DVT. And there were some physicians saying to do it, some physicians saying not. There were specific surgeons saying, absolutely do not do it on my patients. Haven't you seen these new studies? And so you knew that if it was, a hip replacement by this physician, you were not to do Holman sign. But if it was by this physician, you could do it. It was fair game. But now we know if anyone's been in school recently, now it's fully shifted into not doing that because it was discovered that it was only accurate 33% of the time and that the biggest risk of having a DVT is dislodging it. And by doing that test, it was made a risk for actually dislodging the DVT. So it was not very accurate and risky. So it was something that needed to be changed. And there were nurses there that were saying, I've been doing it for 20 years and nothing bad's ever happened. And so definitely being willing to be open to new research, especially if with, best practices for our patients, best outcomes for them. That's the highest priority. And then also using curiosity. If there's anything that you're unfamiliar with, whether it's, a code situation, because there's some things that you don't get experience at in nursing school. Most nursing schools, the the most experience you get at inserting an IV is a dummy arm, or I guess mannequin. We don't like to call people dummies, but a mannequin arm. And those veins are so, if you've ever seen one of the mannequin arms that you can put the IVs on, they're like so prominent, bulging, not real life, not even close. But it's good to get your dexterity down with those. Just even the manual components of it, like taping, like actually undoing from the catheter hub and attaching your tubing and attaching your flush. Those things are good to do in that situation versus when you're nervous, anxious, you have a real patient, there's real blood, potentially oozing out and whatnot. And so always try to see whatever unfamiliar situation you're in, that's okay. And you can always blame it on your nursing school. Just say they never taught me that, even if they did. And then that way you can kind of give yourself like get out of jail free and watch. I was actually just telling my students yesterday we were talking about IV insertion, And especially if there's anyone on your unit who is known to be like that go-to if someone's a hard stick, who's that person that you call and ask to come help with an IV if it's like an older adult, someone really dehydrated, has, really difficult veins, or if they're really, squiggly and whatnot, and it's hard to find a site. Whenever that person goes to help someone out, go watch, because lots of times they have these little like pro tips things they do, and I remember learning so much from just watching that and watching those or like even things that you wouldn't read in a textbook, you know and that are sort of nuances that people get as they get experience and through trial and error and whatnot. And so anytime that there's unfamiliar situations, allow your curiosity to say, hey, can I come watch? I haven't seen this in a while, or I haven't seen that, because the more experience you get, the more you grow.
To piggyback on that, on my new grad program, we had this one day that you could choose to go to the ED or you go to the GI clinic, not clinic, but GI.
Lab.
No, it was like where they would, it's like pack you, but like they were pre-op. So GI pre-op, where we would have to, and I was like, well, which one gets more IV placement? It was just straight IV placements, just that's all you did. And I was like, yeah, sign me up. So I was like, which one do
Hmm.
you get more? And they're like, GI lab. And I was like, done and done. And the tips that I got were so great. And I would have people like all around me watching me. But
Hmm.
again, people were they were not the typical, like they were more hydrated. They weren't, like their veins were a little bit more accessible in my opinion than like the ones on my floor. But it was still great because, like this one gentleman was like, now airplane, airplane,
Hmm.
airplane. And like the lower you can get, and then just going by a vein finder or going by palpation, like all those things are wonderful. And also when you're on your unit, you can ask your preceptor, say, hey, I really would like to have, a chance to insert IVs or do or Foley's or NG. God bless you. But like it's they just send out to the other nurses. They're like, hey, so and so wants to do it if you got an IV placement, because guaranteed someone else is super busy. You're like, oh, you want to go place an IV? Here you go. Go, go. So you can get thrown in if you ask.
I love Holly in the chat said to us, just shadow a rapid response nurse. Absolutely. Even like shadowing wound care, that can help, because lots of times wound care doesn't do every dressing change for you. Depends on the hospital. Sometimes they just do once a week, or they're doing check-ins on patients during certain times. And so watching what they do can help. Especially like I remember I shadowed a wound care nurse, and they were like, wet to dry dressing means wet to dry, not where it's soaking wet. And then when you actually pull it out, it's still partially moist. Apologies for anyone who hates the word moist, but it's not actually dry. And they're like, it needs to be dry when it's being pulled out, because that's part of that process, part of the debridement process too. And they're like, so that's really important to not make it so wet when you put it in. And so it's even little tips like that that are so hard to learn from a textbook. It's from the people who have that experience. And you'll get there someday. You'll be that person who has a niche recommendation of something to pass along to someone else. And so, nursing, it's a group activity, it's a group sport. And so, finding out from the people who are experts. But I love that, shadowing a rapid response nurse. Absolutely.
Shadow is that key word. You won't get hands-on.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing. With the hands-on, it'll be hard because most of the time with rapid response, they're going to be the hard sticks. So they're going to be going around with like a Doppler, and you have to be trained in that. Um, and they're usually the ones that, but shadowing, yes, great opportunity. Hands-on, it may not get as many pokes as you're anticipating. So
Hmm.
I think that just as a testament to learning as a human. I feel
Hmm.
like my brother has little kids, toddlers, and they're like little parrots, man. They learn the best by mimicking other people. I'm never
Hmm.
gonna sit down and be like, hey, this is how you do it in a textbook. Like humans like learn from seeing
Hmm.
and doing. And that's what I'm saying. Like the first 3 months as a new grad, don't beat yourself up. You're not dumb, you're just new. All right.
Hmm.
Go through like 30 videos of this and we say it time and time again in
Hmm.
the new grad prep course. And if you guys are just tuning in, new grad prep course, we just dropped a big, huge course for everything you need for new grad stuff. We're talking interview questions, resume builder, 30 videos of how to navigate your new career. A big one that I saw in the question box was like, do I do med surg? Does every nurse have to do med surg? That was a huge segment.
Hmm.
Um, And we can answer that as well. But we have the link right here and also 20% off for our Simple Nursing members. And I believe we are also having an extended sale for everyone else. So if that's interesting for you, then just click the link there. But let's move on here. Specialization equals more money. If you guys are just tuning in, we are talking about how to make more money as a nurse. So it's all about learning before you start earning. And one of the best ways is specialization. So let's dive into some details here. So the career benefits, like we talked about briefly, is certified nurses can command a higher base pay. Now, obviously, everyone's certified. We all have our license. We passed our NCLEX, or you're about to pass your NCLEX. But these are different certifications. And if you guys are unfamiliar or just joining us, there's like over dozens of certification, I think up to 30 plus. The biggest ones that we mentioned before for critical care is CCRN nurse, which is like 500 to, I think they even rose the price, maybe 800 bucks, something like that. There's another one like wound care nurse. You can become dialysis specialized. And the more specialization that you get, the more money and earning potential you have.
Mhm.
And you can also receive differential pay because of that advanced expertise.
Mhm.
Furthermore, number two here on the left, certifications, they strengthen your resume. Like, you guys know when people have like all that stuff behind their name, BSN, RN, MSNBC, LOL.
There's all those memes of how nurses particularly love our letters behind the name.
Yeah, yeah. And the more letters typically means the more expertise you have, which means you can command higher pay. So
Mhm.
again, I would learn from other experienced nurses in your fields and don't be ashamed to like say like, hey, how did you get specialized in this area? What would you recommend for this
Mhm.
expertise? Because it's totally different if you work in critical care, like emergency ICU, versus mother baby, like Nurse Joe's working, or other specialties.
And most
So
of the time they'll have you wait like 3 years in that specialty, whether it's med surg, ICU, or labor and delivery, or whatever the case may be. The great question, like Mike was saying, is that you want to ask, what's my game plan? How do I get that? Because they can help do a career ladder with you and be like, what's my time frame? How can I project my future? Because you always should have goals. Um, so yeah, ask about time frames.
yeah, that's a big one. Oops, did I just go back? Oh, snap. Okay. Number three is some healthcare systems offer bonuses or
Mhm.
incentives for maintaining active specialty certifications. Like Joe, does your because I mean you work at is it Magnet for UC Davis?
Yeah, yeah, UC Davis, it's magnet. And so for your specialties, so we're unionized. So for us, it's $90 a paycheck additional you get for certain certifications you get. But I know at other ones that are not, like, for example, like Lodi Memorial, they get like certain shift differentials and they get percent ones where it's not just a standard, like, oh, here's $90. So whether you're unionized or like a state, like we're education based, so
Mhm.
like we're kind of under like a safer thing for our retirement, which is great.
Mhm.
But at other hospitals, they may have more compensation. So yeah,
And then
so it,
like I mean if you guys are unfamiliar with Magnet status, that basically means you work at like a Ritz-Carlton style hospital or like an Ivy League hospital. I've worked at over 9 emergency rooms in the Southern California area when I was working clinical bedside. And trust me, no two hospitals are alike. You get those community hospitals, which have lower pay, lower staffing, horrible equipment supply. Then you work at the Ivy League or the magnet status,
Mhm.
and you get increased pay, amazing staff, and just equipment that is always brand new, which is really cool.
Mhm.
Um, don't quote me on that, but also know that no two hospitals are the same.
Mhm.
But to that point, for Joe, do they have more pay if you have your bachelor's degree at UC Davis?
no. So because it's a state, so other hospitals, yes, but because we're part of like an education system with CalPERS or STIRS, I always forget which one it is. It's all years in. and then qualifications, they're on out. So it's all everything's public on our pay, which is cool, but it's we're constantly renegotiating. But I know with others, um, they could possibly have more incentives with your BSN. So yeah, I kind of felt like BSN was like the new high school diploma, like
Yeah.
kind of have to have it in order to get hired. But
Mhm.
and it's kind of moving towards that. And now that, people are wanting more and more. So, but you can get hired without your BSN and other places, other hospitals that aren't in the education system, they do offer more with your BSN. So you're right on target for that. Yeah.
Yes, and speaking of like, since we're on the topic of BSN, MSN, if you get your master's, I know in my hospital was Magnets, one of them that I worked at, St. Joe's near Children's Hospital of Orange County. They would actually pay more if you have your master's degree. Um, and my point with that was, oh, you can actually get into management. And you can also, the really cool part is if education is your thing, then you can become a clinical educator for the nurses that you work with. And so we had a lady named Beth. She was amazing. She didn't even really work bedside. She would jump in as a float sometimes, but she would just hold these educational workshops and get paid, I think, like 20 to 30% higher than the nurses that were actually working bedside.
Mhm.
So that's really cool. And
Yeah.
that could be a really cool step.
Sometimes the steps will be like they'll offer those incentives at certain hospitals, which are some because and now they've kind of if you have your master's already, they you can actually depending on what subject your master's is in, it doesn't even have to be an MSN. Like it could be an MAT or MEd or something like that as well. But they they will like in the education part or say you go to like I don't know, I'm just using UC Davis as an example because it's in the education system and then there's the union hospitals and then there's like the small hospitals, right? So they will use so your clinical staff nurse one with the first 6 months of hire. Then you're a staff nurse two once you are just hanging out. But once you apply to be like a CN3, so a clinical staff nurse three, that would be you it's a whole application part. And one of them is like, hey, are you in a master's program or are you taking further education? So there's always ways to make more bucks. Just always ask because it's so different across the
Mhm.
board.
Yeah, learning before you earn, guys. So what are some steps we can take over here, Allison? Here.
So definitely like tr are trying to go through CEU courses within your specialty. So like if you're in ortho or any type of, there's general med surg floors, but then there can also be some floors that are a little bit more specified. Or let's say that you work in a completely different area. Like for me, I do now a lot of my continuing education courses are focused more towards teaching and whatnot. So whichever area that you're in, look at CEU courses that are going to be geared towards that because it's going to help you grow and help you learn. And so especially, and you're going to be more interested in it. So you're going to be more engaged versus just trying to get your hours in. Also, any mentorship from certified nurses and ask them about how they did it. Usually, they're willing to give you any books they used or resources, especially if you want to get those certifications. So I've had plenty of people who have passed down books, and I've passed books to other people. And so they're usually willing to help you and get that off their bookshelf and into someone else's hand. So that's another bonus from it. And especially if you know that you're going to be in an area for a while, because usually to get certified, you need to have experience in it for 2 years and in that specific area. And so start planning ahead because once you hit the 2 years, you don't want to start studying for that certification. Then, especially if you start studying earlier along the way, then it'll mean that you can just get it that much faster. And again, then the last one just says oftentimes you need 1 to 2 years of practice. I think most standards is that 2 years, and it's going to maximize that potential. And again, give you extra letters behind your name.
Yep, more letters usually means more pay. So that's a huge hack right there. But again, just like Nurse Joe said, and just like Professor Allison just said as well, um, you know, always ask and seek mentorship because we learn best by learning from others that have gone before us. So, find the mama sun or the mother hen on your
Mhm.
unit that's willing to help and just loves, to
Mhm.
help new grads. And there's always usually one. So.
Mhm.
All right, next one is improving your eligibility for leadership roles. So, if you guys know or didn't know, or if you're just plainly new, you guys can be a charge nurse. You can also be a director for an entire department and get paid the buco bucks for, wrangling cats and doing all the, updates that upper management throws down.
Mhm.
Usually, in the hospital setting, I'll give you guys some behind the scenes look. Usually, you're kind of divided in between the nurses who are on the front lines and the management of the hospital. So you got to kind of be good at, maneuvering and politics, and leadership role is all about being, real and having your feet on the ground and being in the trenches with the troops, just like bedside nurses that you just came from, and empathizing with them, and just kind of like juggling both sides. But really, the career benefits here is that nurse leaders can earn 10 to 25% more than staff nurses. If you're a charge nurse, if you're a director, obviously it's depends on the facility as well as the location. But usually, magna status hospitals or Ivy League hospitals, big university hospitals, they pay really well for leadership roles. And leadership roles and projects can come with additional bonuses and financial incentives, which are really, really cool. I know that St. Joseph's in Orange County, where I used to work, there was a 60-bed ER. We had, I believe, one of the top three most busy ERs in California. So our nurse manager was amazing, and he was like always like zenned out and like really just chill. But he did make a lot more money, and everyone's like, man, but he was a really good guy. So that's always really cool. And number three is visible leadership contributions, build credibility, gives you more negotiating power when moving between employers. That's a huge word, between employers, because I've seen nurses that have stayed at the same hospital in the same role, didn't really improve for like 10 years, 15 years, and literally new grads who got their 1 year or 2 years experience, got all their certifications, and then just started transferring hospitals and working their way up, were sometimes earning double pay in literally the same almost areas in like a 10, 20-mile radius. So all we're trying to say, guys, is nurses are in high demand, but specialties are in high demand. And if you have leadership roles, guys, you can just slam dunk it and you're going to make everyone look bad. So you'll be great. So, how are some ways we can implement these practically here?
So, especially seeking out opportunities as early as possible. Just because you're new doesn't mean that you have to wait. So, even like joining committees, that's also a way to get to bond with the other people that you work with a little bit faster. That's what I found. I joined a lot of committees really quickly, mainly to get an opportunity to get to know people more and develop some of those relationships. Workshops can also help. Shadowing different people, like even if you think you want to be a charge nurse someday, before you take that role on, see what it even entails. And see how much outside of your realm that is, how much time you need to give yourself to learn and grow before you do that. Or like some of the other shadowing opportunities that we talked about before.
Mhm.
Also, start thinking like a leader. So it's almost like dress like the role you want, that phrase. Start thinking, why about different processes versus, okay, just here's the thing I'm going to do, but sort of the why behind them. So that way you understand it on a deeper level. And then other ways are especially connect with experienced educators. So if there's like someone who is like the staff educator and whatnot, or the manager, they can help to give you guidance and recognize and even help you see the fact that you're seeking that out, asking those questions. Then they'll know, oh, this person, is kind of pushing themselves out in front of the pack and that they're interested in these opportunities. And so then oftentimes, even just knowing that you're interested in those leadership role opportunities, they'll start to integrate you into other things that you did maybe hadn't even thought of or thought were an option.
And that's an overall theme in the new grad prep course. As we
Mhm,
were interviewing hiring managers from some of the biggest hospitals in the United
mhm,
States, we literally asked them, like, okay, what do you guys look for in new grads?
mhm,
And what questions do you ask in
mhm.
the interview? And they spill the beans into the new grad prep course. One of the most interesting ones is a CNO, which is a chief nursing officer, basically the head
Mhm.
honcho, like the CEO, but for the nurses, which if you guys didn't know, nurses make like 80% of the hospital. Um, like literally the backbone, the nurse mafia, we call it. But she was saying that the best new grads are always the most eager to learn and
Mhm.
always the ones that are kind of stepping up and saying, like, I don't know, but how do I learn that?
Mhm.
Instead of the other side of the tracks, which I've heard some toxic things like, that's not in my, job description. Now
Mhm.
I get it. Not everything's in your job description, but when comes time to learn, as a new grad, you want to just be a sponge and just learn as
Mhm.
much as you can, because you never know what kind of specialties or certifications you can get into that you'll end up doing in the future. I
Mhm.
know that there was a question in there, and we can always address it right now, but it's like, do we have to start in med surge as a nurse? And for me personally, I worked on the ambulance before. I worked as a tech in the emergency room. I knew I never wanted to be a med surge nurse. I despised it with like with a passion. But Professor Allison here, she kind of changed my mind on it when we were having that interview
Mhm.
about med surge, and we dig into all the med surge things. And Allison, you actually love med surge, and you started there, and you got some great good knowledge.
I basically started there because it was the first job I was offered, And
Okay.
so, I was like a lot of other people when I started nursing school. Everyone else wanted to do OB or peds. So I was like, oh, that's what I should want to do. And so, but I really would have taken any job that I got. Probably not peds, just because sick babies make me really sad. But like OB and whatnot. And I thought that I was interested in those areas. But the first opportunity I got was a med surge opportunity, and I ended up staying in med surge. And so I think it's, different strokes for different folks. It's very much an old school mentality that you have to start in med surge or that that's the only way to go. I remember when I was in nursing school, the instructors would always say they don't hire new grads in ICUs. That's not true anymore. They don't hire new grads in ERs. Very much not true. And so they would say you should just be prepared to work night shift and med surge as a new grad, which again, not true. If there's an opportunity and knowing yourself, know how do you best function. If you don't function well overnight and you know that you're not at your best abilities, then, then seek out a job that's day shift. Because we get that question a lot too. Like, what do you recommend? Do you think every new grad has to do night shift? But no, I think med surg can help if you want to see a variety of things, brush up on your skills really quickly. Because even though I worked on an ortho floor, especially on weekends when there wasn't planned ortho surgeries or holidays, you could get some emergency ortho surgeries, have people left over from the surgeries during the week. But oftentimes then we would get anything. We'd get general medicine patients and whatnot. And so it was a good way to brush up on a lot of different things and get a lot of skills opportunities. And so that was one of the things I found as positive. I felt like I was never bored. And there's pros and cons to that. It means you don't get to sit a lot, you don't get a lot of breaks. But I like that, especially if it's nights. If I sit down for too long, I'm falling asleep. But for me, it wasn't like as crazy chaotic as the ER. And so I found it to be a happy medium. And we also get the question about nights a lot. I felt like, especially as a new grad, starting on night shift, you don't have as much chaos happening as day shift. You don't have where, doctors are doing their rounds and then putting in new orders where you already looked up everything an hour ago and you thought you had your plan for the day and now they've discontinued med you thought you were going to have to give and they've added new meds at different times and you have to readjust. So I felt like working night shift first to get my feet under me and to gain my confidence before switching to day shift was really, really helpful. But again, everyone's different. And so, knowing yourself
Mhm.
and knowing, if you're not able to wait for the perfect opportunity, then especially just something that gets you in the door, that also gets you to start getting to utilize your skills and, get that newness away. And you might end up loving it. But then there's some people that think they'll love a unit and then they stay for only 6 months and switch, and that's very common and normal too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Go ahead.
So sorry, Mike.
Eh,
So to piggyback up on that, everything Allison's saying is so true because
Mhm.
like I never wanted to work med surg. Like I was like, no, never. But then like
Mhm.
okay, perspective. The goal is I want to do a new grad program. Well, in order to qualify for a new grad program, you have to work under 3 months as a nurse, as a registered nurse, not a volunteer, not a student nurse, not someone on the unit. It's under 3 months in order to qualify. Hearts. Uh,
Right.
Also, on the topic of like day shift, night shift, and what is the need of the unit? Like I started as a new grad.
Mhm.
My program was 1 year. I went into it being like, okay, let's see. Let's see. Do I sink or swim? And then some new grads had to go to nights. I never went to nights. I stayed day. I just bucked up. I mean, I was just studying. I did extra, videos. And if I had the
Mhm.
opportunity at the time, I would have, done these techniques and different videos like what Mike's starting to offer with Elite, like his new
Mhm.
baby now. Like I would have done those things because knowledge is power.
Mhm.
Policy in your hospital, but learning those techniques are going to make you a faster and safer nurse. So, but now perspective, I now switched units and I'm going to be going night shift. So I'll be doing nights for 3 to 5 years. And I'm like, oh, but specialty. And it's all perspective. And always
Mhm.
have a good attitude about it. Don't be one of those
Mhm.
bah humbugs like, oh, I'm not doing this. It's like, I don't know what this new generation is like now, but work hard, be positive, like
Mhm.
put your time in. It's all a journey. So just
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Put on a happy face here. Even if it's like, not the happiest time. We always had what am I saying? We always had a rule in the emergency room where it's like, whatever personal stuff you're going through, check it at the door because chances are that your patients that you're going to see have a worse day than you. And the reason that they're in the hospital is because they're in the hurt box. And some of your patients, they're going to see, you're going to see them on the worst day of their lives.
Mhm.
So you don't want to, be that nurse. Be the nurse that you wish you had, or you wish your grandma had, or you wish your mom had,
Mhm. And I
Uh,
feel like there's so often that you're like, oh, I just want to get away from my problems. Go to work.
yeah,
Go to work and
get
if
busy.
let it pause. You're busy, you're booked. It's better to not have your cell phone on you so that way you can focus on what's going on with your patients. And uh, sometimes the best way to like put your own problems in perspective is to see bigger problems, you
Yeah.
know, and sometimes that can really like, okay, wait, maybe I'm not that as mad as I thought I was at this person for this thing that actually isn't a big deal.
Mhm.
So there's different ways to look at it. Definitely, sometimes it's all in the mindset.
Yeah. And that's the biggest thing, guys. Mindset is everything. It can literally make or break your entire career. And so you just, graduated nursing school, or you're about to graduate if you're watching this, and you're about to take your NCLEX, or you just took your NCLEX, and you're probably done with school. I've heard that a lot. Like, I'm done with school. I'm never going back. But remember, it's okay to take a break, guys, and be new at something.
Mhm.
But just remember that advanced degrees are higher earning potential, like we just
Mhm.
talked about. So, some career benefits of these advanced degrees is that they can result in access to the higher wage brackets, just like we talked about with leadership. Big one is education. That
Mhm.
was my forte. I thought I always wanted to be a nurse practitioner because they got the highest earning potential. But then I just fell in love with education. Like my fast track was like nurse practitioner or nothing.
Mhm.
And it turns out that I'm like, wow, I really love education. I have a knack for it. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll just do this. Or you can get advanced clinical practice as advanced clinical practice nurse uh,
Mhm.
and, and make more doing that. And nowadays, to get your master's, oh my gosh, it's so easy. If you guys didn't know, there's over 11 different types. There's probably more now of specialties for a master's degree. We're talking informatics. If data and spreadsheets is your thing and numbers, then you can have a master's degree in that. There's a master's in leadership. There's a master's in education, which I got. And nowadays, you can do it 100% online. You can even skip your bachelor's and go straight to your master's in
Mhm.
12 months. And I got mine in 12 months for about 12,000 at Capella University. And that's not a plug for them because I'm not sponsored anymore. But I will say that at the time, which is right around COVID time, they were the fastest and cheapest. I would ask AI or ChatGPT, what's the fastest and cheapest nowadays? But
Mhm.
if you are going nurse practitioner or CRNA, those are certifications. You need to have a number of clinical
Mhm.
hours. So it's not 100% online for those, but for everything else, like your PhD, your DMP, your LMNOP, no, for your master's degree, you guys can get all that online, which is really, really cool. And it's just an easier way to do stuff. And so, point number two is that there may be pay differentials for nurses with higher education levels. Like we talked about, if you have your BSN or if you have your master's, these nurses can earn 5 to 10 grand more annually than simply an associate's degree nurse at the same exact hospital. So, for years, I was an ADN, associate's degree only, a 2 year community college nurse. And I was like, should I get my master's or should I get my bachelor's? Which one should I do first? I went to Walden 3 years after I graduated. At the time, it was the cheapest and fastest. It was 18 months for 30 grand. And I'm like, okay. And then I dropped out because I'm like, this is too much. And I went back 4 years later, and then it got more competitive. Everyone was in the game, man. It was like WGU, Grand Canyon University, and Capella, and Arlington, and Texas, and just like a list. And I Googled the crap out of it. I'm just like, okay, which is the fastest and cheapest? I'm going to do it. Yeah, and it turns out Capella was. And I skipped my bachelor's, which is really cool. And so, master's degree nurses can even have more earning potential than what you see here. But again, depends on the hospital. So,
And some hospitals will even pay for your bridge program if you're ADN, you're going to go to BSN. Um, Again, like Mike and Allison had said before, get your foot in the door. Just get
yeah,
in the hospital, get that experience. You can, it might be difficult to switch specialties or whatever, but just get the experience, because
Mhm.
all about who you know and then what certificates you get. But yeah, just get your foot in the door. It reminded me of the thing you said, Mike. You said on a recent post, you said, fix your attitude so you can fix your altitude. And your
that's
attitude
right.
changes with more education, like every 7 books or this and this and that. So
Yeah.
fix your attitude.
You got to
Fix your
change
attitude.
your attitude before you change your altitude. That's what they
Yeah.
Mhm.
say. Okay, so speaking of that, what are some simple ways to implement this while working as bedside nurse, Alison?
Especially, I feel like since COVID, there's more and more schools that are doing asynchronous learning. So, meaning that, like, you don't always have to be going to a campus, that you can be doing things online, or where you just have to, log in and do discussion postings. And so that way you can allow it to be flexible, adjustable to your schedule, especially if you're working at the same time and whatnot, or if you have kids, a family, or if you have multiple jobs. Also, they can have multiple start dates. So, like, I know there's some schools where there's a start date. You can start in September. If you miss that one, then they start again in November. Then they start again in January. And so there's opportunities consistently. It's not like, I feel like old school framework was, they did one start a year, this big class, kind of that traditional schooling, and you had to apply during a certain time, and it might be months before you hear back. Now they're moving things along a lot quicker. Also, again, see what things are opportunities for the ways that you can do your classes or your lessons online. Whether there's some online, some high, or some that's on, maybe you have to go to a campus to take exams or go somewhere for exams, or you have to go somewhere for your clinical hours. And then there's also some that are part time. It takes a little bit longer, but again, if that works better with your life and with the things going on for you, then sometimes we tend to think, oh, well, I'm going to wait until, the craziness of life slows down. Right now is not a good time, so I'm going to wait a little bit and then I'll start the program. And sure enough, then a year goes by, 2 years goes by, and if you had started even part-time when you initially wanted to, you'd be done by the time, because life always lifes, and especially when you least expect it, stuff always comes up. And so just getting started, and even if it's like you're just etching away a few classes at a time, that instead of putting it off until it fits your schedule, there's a good chance it never will, and it'll
Never
never be a
will, yeah.
great time. There's always stuff. And so even if you can just inch away, and get closer and closer, then maybe there's a time when you can amp it up from part-time to full-time. But at least
Yeah.
you'll have, oh yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Mike.
Oh no, I was gonna jump in and say exact like I've seen it so much, and there's like a huge debacle and like a big like what do they call it? Not drama, but like a big whatever it is, like a debacle like in
Mhm,
nursing where it's like LPN versus RN or LVN versus RN. And guys, LVN LPN is like the first year of a 2-year nursing program. And I've
mhm,
seen it so often, man. It's like experienced, amazing LPNs, LVNs
mhm,
making half of what RNs make, literally knowing more than some nurses because they've been at the unit for like 15 years.
mhm,
And I'm like, dude, like you just literally have to go to school for one more year and you'll make double. But
mhm,
lives and you go by
mhm,
and a decade passes. And I'm like, dude, your little earning potential is half. I'm like, bro, you could just do it. Like it's crazy.
mhm.
So
And so
yeah,
even and to kind of go hand in hand, even starting with like smaller course loads
yeah.
until you, even if it's like until you get your rhythm of like what days you're going to be doing schoolwork and things like that. So even just while you're getting your feet wet and then picking up larger course loads when you can and when you're
Mm,
able to, if you're able to, or, there is no race to the finish. Yes, we are, optimal is the fastest, the cheapest, but if that can't happen, then getting it done, no matter how you get it done.
hmm. And just
Time is
typically,
money. Money is time.
Mhm.
Get it done.
yeah, and like what do they say? Wheels in motions kind of stay in motion.
Mhm.
Even
Yep.
if you're taking baby steps toward your goal, it's better just to like stay in motion than just do nothing and be at the same area, getting the same pay when your earning potential can be higher if you
Mhm.
simply just take baby steps. And before you know it, it's just like nursing school, before you know it,
Mhm.
it's gonna be over and you're like, whoa, that was easy. Not easy, but it was like not as painless as it did feel like during childbirth of getting your nursing degree.
And
So,
have a plan. Like Mike and Allison were saying, just half the battle is knowledge. Like, have a plan. Use
Mhm.
AI initially. Go meet with a counselor. See what your job offers. See anything. Just have a plan.
Mhm.
Don't be naive about it. Have a plan.
yeah, and to that point, the biggest have a plan is the tuition reimbursements and incentives. The
Mhm.
plan is everything. So if you work at a bigger hospital or even community hospitals, they will reimburse you for your higher education. Sometimes
Mhm.
they'll do loan forgiveness, which is really cool. I've seen that at certain hospitals.
Mhm.
So it really just depends which hospital you go to and use that as bargaining chips. If you fall in love with a hospital that you've worked at for years as a CNA or as I did as a tech, start there, but don't be married to it because other hospitals have other incentive programs and you
Mhm.
guys can literally get your debts paid for by doing the same exact job. So
Mhm.
remember, higher earning potential here with decreased debt burden and faster education ROI, return on investment. So have the hospital pay for it. Sometimes they'll make you sign a contract. It's like, well, if we're paying for it, you got to stick around for a number of years. So
Mhm.
just be careful of that as well. But it's sometimes a win-win.
But it
Uh,
might secure a job that maybe it's hard to get into that specialty that you were trying to
yeah.
get
Mhm.
extra education for. And you're like, oh man, I might be married here. But like, dude, you just means that you just gained experience with
Mhm.
that level of degree. So it's like, it's a win-win. So
Mhm.
Mhm.
It really is. And 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 remember, like we just said, employers who've invested in your education, they are more likely to promote you into leadership positions or advanced clinical roles over other candidates because you already have your foot in the door. They already know you, like you, trust you. If you show up to work on time and don't call off as much, which I was not that good at that, but but yeah, they're more likely to promote you instead of someone they just hired who they don't really know, if that makes sense.
Mhm. And then also, a lot of this we're talking about, have a game plan, know what your options are. And, because there's some places where if you start there, they won't do reimbursement for your tuition unless you've already been there for a certain number of years.
Mm,
But you're not stuck in the mud. You can use that time to maybe if there's any prereqs that you can complete, or if there's an application process. So use that time in other ways, so that way you don't feel like you're just stuck and being held back from what you want to continue on doing.
Mhm.
Also, if there's anything like incentives as far as like outside grants, Chat GPT can be very helpful in finding like different types of scholarship grants that you never knew were options. There's some that are, only available if you are if you're the first person in your family to go to college.
Mhm.
There's like so many different niche ones. And even if it's a small amount here and there, even if it's just a little grant, a little tiny scholarship, doesn't matter. It can pay for like books, can pay for a new computer. A little bit can go a long way and it adds up over time. And also tell your unit leaders that that's what you want to do. Lots of times at like annual reviews, they love to ask, what's your 5-year plan? What's your 3-year plan? Let them know because they can then also tell you what are the little nuances, what are the little requirements in order to make sure that it does get paid. Because sometimes you might need them to sign off on it and approve on it because like there can be a nuance. I've heard of some hospitals or even some places where if you're on any type of like disciplinary action, you
Mhm.
can't you can't apply and be a part of that. And if you don't have that approval prior to starting, you could be on the hook for classes that you've already taken, thinking
Mhm.
that they would just automatically pay for it. So especially letting them know, they're going to tell you those little nuances. That way you don't get stuck, holding the bill for something that you thought was going to be reimbursed or paid for in some way.
Yeah, yeah. Always share your goals. And it goes back to where we're always saying, learn before you earn.
Mhm.
If you don't ask, the answer is always no. But always ask.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
I had
even
a nurse friend on the unit who just got her DNP like 6 months ago. And I'm like, dude, how much was that?
yeah,
Like she's like, I paid zero. And I was like, what? She granted it out and they paid for everything because she's like, I just wrote a paper. I wrote a paper. I wrote a paper. I
um,
paid zero for my DNP. I was like, shut the door.
yeah, DMPs. I'm looking into my DMP guys, and that's like over 50 to 80K sometimes, which is crazy.
Mhm.
Um, and so I highlighted this one because stacking employer incentives or an outside nursing agency. So, for example, I went for a master's degree at Capella. They shaved off $4,000, guys, by me just applying to the Nurses Association of America. I think it's called ANYA or whatever it's called. And that
ANA. Mhm.
membership was in a, yeah, that membership was only like a few $100s. And I'm like, huh, I'm gonna pay a few hundred
Mhm.
dollars here and they're gonna shave off 4,000. Like what? Like these are like little things that go a long way. So
Mhm.
it's really cool. So I'm glad we're doing this for you guys and sharing you some hacks and behind the scenes
Mhm.
things that a lot of people don't know. So let's talk about improving marketability for travel, which who doesn't like to travel, as well as premium contracts. This one is huge. We're going to be developing an entire marketplace where we sit down and interview the best practices, the best negotiations for travel nursing,
Mhm.
as well as other things like interviewing Botox nurses who own their own clinic, or advanced practice career pathways for CRNAs and nurse practitioners or DNPs. And we're going to be throwing that into where you guys find the new grad prep course. It's not done yet. That's 2.0 coming in 26. So, you know, just letting you guys know that we're offering more and more and more. So the career benefits is that advanced education and certifications, like we've been talking about, it makes you a top pick for premium travel roles. And if you guys are unfamiliar with um, travel nursing, you can literally get paid double, if not triple, your
Mhm.
base pay at the same exact hospital that you're working at currently.
Mhm.
So, for example, let's just say you get paid, I don't know, $30 to $40 an hour as a new grad. After you get that 1 year of experience, let's say you did your fast track master's degree, MSN, like I did, and you stacked a few certifications in the meantime. By the end of that 1 year, if not 2 years, you can, command a double pay or triple pay. And I'm like, whoa, that's a really cool power move. And you get to see the world. You can go to New York for 12 weeks, go to Hawaii, go to Miami, go anywhere you want, which is kind of actually British Virgin, not British, the US Virgin Islands. I met a nurse that was there and she was like literally in paradise for like 3 months out of the year, getting paid a gang. And I'm like, what the heck? So it's amazing. Another one here is that travel agencies may offer, here's a big one, rapid response contracts. So write that one down. I've seen some of my friends during COVID get 25 to 50% higher pay during these shortages,
Mhm.
like they had in COVID. And some of my friends were getting paid like 30 grand plus per month for going to these remote regions that it was really hard for them to find nurses.
Mhm.
And they'll prioritize candidates who need less training. This is why it's so important
Mhm.
for you guys to have your experience, have certifications, make yourself as most marketable as you can,
Mhm.
because it will pay off when the timing is right. So,
And tax breaks too, because some can make a lot more, and then you're also given a stipend for living accommodations. Like during the whole COVID thing, I had a
mhm.
friend who was making, I think it was like 10 grand a week here in California, doing, yeah, 10 grand a week. And I mean, she was dying. She was like, it was rough. But
It's not
she also,
forever.
not
Yeah.
forever, exactly,
Mhm.
but for this 6 months of these repeated like two contracts or three contracts, let's just hypothetically, she made over 200 grand that year, easy.
Wow.
I
Mhm.
can say 250, but her taxes only showed like 120 because
Wow.
there was this huge stipend thing. So also check
Mhm.
your tax stuff, which being outside of COVID-ish, but pandemic wise, there may
Mhm.
not be as much, you know,
Hmm.
incentives, but hey man, check about your taxes.
And speaking of, if you guys didn't know this, I didn't even know this, but here's like behind the scenes secret here. Uh, Travel companies, if you guys didn't know, this is really weird. I sat down with a travel nurse, and we're going to be putting this into a course about negotiating and increasing and demanding higher pay. Because travel companies, there's like, recruiters, some are nice, don't get me wrong, but most of them are like, sleazy car salesmen. It feels like that. And I've had multiple friends on the phone, on speaker, like literally like talking to them, and some are mean. But anyways, all that to be said is that these travel companies, man, here's the big secret. They'll take 50% of your contract, which is crazy. So for
Mhm.
example, you're getting paid, let's say $20,000 a month, and you're feeling like that's great.
Mhm.
The hospitals are paying that travel agency 40 grand a month, and they're dishing
Mhm.
out to you only half. So there's certain travel companies that'll give you 80% if you know what to
Mhm.
say and how to shop it around. So I've seen a lot of my friends do that. There's even a Facebook group, I forget the name of it, but it's basically travel nurses, and they drop the best practices, and they drop also higher contracts when the iron, or what am I saying? When the timing is right, and they'll show you exactly what to do, when to do it, as well as what specialties you'll need. But it's so helpful because like one simple power move for let's say 3 months or 6 months out of the year, I've seen nurses work, 6 months out of the year and then not work for the rest of the year because it's like, oh, I already made all my money that I would have worked if I was only at that one hospital, which is so
Mhm.
cool. So yeah. Anyways, that's like a little side piece that's not in our slides here. And as mentioned before, some travel contracts in specialized units, they require current specialty certifications. That's
Mhm.
why it's so good to stack your certs and stack your
Mhm.
education. Because when the timing's right, this stuff happens right here, and you guys can get paid a lot when you strike when the iron's hot.
Mhm.
So,
Because even though I know this answer, but like with their question that you should be asking too is like these certifications, is there maintenance? Is there
mhm,
upkeep? Is it just like a once and done? It's like, no, you have to recertify every 2 years. So you have to
Mhm.
take that test again in 2 years in order to maintain it and to do additional CEs and whatnot. So, hey man, do it. It's worth it.
second oil change, man. You got to get the car on the road, get the show on the road. But we're talking like a few $100s versus a few thousand, tens of thousands of dollars in your pocket just to
Mhm.
maintain licenses. So, yeah.
And to kind of go off something that you said earlier, Mike, one of the things I did when I was working full time at one hospital, and then I wanted to pick up a per diem role. And when I was doing the job search, one of them was a travel company for in my same city and for one of the hospitals that I was already looking at. But because it was through a contract through a travel agents or through a travel company, um, it was actually more per hour for those extra shifts worked than if I had instead taken a job opening that that hospital had on their job board. But instead, by doing that same job, same hospital, and working the same hours, the same shifts I was able to pick up, I was still making more money, even though I lived in that city. Of course, the travel company wouldn't pay like room and board because I already lived there. But that also made, me a little bit more attractive to them as someone, because then they didn't have to pay that. So I was able to negotiate a little bit of an even bigger boost because I was saving them money on that room and board and whatnot. And so some other things that you can implement. So like again, stacking your certs and whatnot, and especially doing CEUs and education in specialty areas where common. Because even sometimes they'll put you on just float pool, which means you can also go anywhere. So in order to be comfortable with that, being able to look up some things and stay on top of information in regards to certain units that maybe you haven't had a lot of experience on. And especially taking advantage of and documenting small learning opportunities in areas and trying to be as adaptable as possible. Luckily, as nurses, we all have to float at some point. And so lots of times, especially if there's someone that has to float,
Flirt.
that has to float on the unit, if you're the travel contract, they're sending you first.
Hmm.
It doesn't matter. Some hospitals, they won't float you until you've been there for like 6 months. And then they start, if they float someone, then it's like a rotation. But usually you're the first one to go. So being able to be adaptable and whatnot. And also, and use that education to highlight how you have flexibility because of that. And so therefore reduced orientation time. And it also means that you could, potentially, if there's a lower census on the unit that you were hired for, but you could still be utilized and float to another unit.
Whoops. Sorry, I got a spam color.
Yeah, my Mike got click happy. Oh, we're having just a little technical difficulties.
All those spam callers, they always, I don't know about you guys, but there's like a bunch of spam callers hit me up every single day. So yeah, let's move on real quick. We have a time check, guys.
Mhm.
We are vibing so hard that I totally forgot about the time, and we are done or cut off in what is it? 15?
17 minutes? Yeah.
Okay. Let's see, what do we got left? We got two slides left, then we're opening up the Q&A. But since we have a strict time thing, guys, just if you just tuned in, or maybe you're just dropping in, we just dropped a new nursing new grad membership, which is everything you need to jumpstart your career. It's 2 years in the making. I literally birthed this, and this is like my little pride and joy. We have everything you need to know as a new grad with over 30 videos of how to navigate time management, what to do with bullying, which we saw as a question, which we'll answer very shortly. Should you start a med surge? Should you not start a med surge? What to expect from the top specialties from ER, ICU, med surge, telemetry,
Mhm.
pediatrics, psychiatric, and more, all stuffed into this new grad prep course. Bite-sized videos
Mhm.
that you guys already know from Simple Nursing. Also, a really cool skills refresher library with over 100 quick training skills, as well as cheat sheets. And one of the really cool brainchilds that I had, I can even pull it up for you guys. But the cool thing is, as a new grad, let's just say you're on the unit, right? And you have 3 or 4 patients, depending on your state. Maybe you only have 1 or 2 if you're in ICU.
Mhm.
And someone has an, let's say ICP, inside their head. Someone has a heart attack. Someone has congestive heart failure. Another person has diabetes. Let's just say. Well, guess what? What we did is we made 90-second videos on the top 50 diagnosis from med surg to ICU to ER. And we basically wrapped it up. Here's the top 3 things you should be looking for, when to call the doctor, and also a little patho that's all animated, and it's all inside this course for you guys. And just we stuffed it with so much stuff, like it's like Christmas, man. Career guidance, and you get CUs all on top of that, which is really cool. So before we hit those last 2 slides, just know that we are doing blowout sale here because it's so brand new and it's our little pride and joy that you get all of that for only 79 bucks. And we're stacking so much more in there. We are releasing this new medical mystery podcast that kind of looks like and feels like Forensic Files or Law and Order or all these murder mysteries that you guys already love. And we're using AI to animate it. It's so cool. You guys get CEUs for it. And that'll also be inside this membership that will be adjunct to the new grad course. So if that's interesting to you, we're going to drop the link for you guys so you guys can get discounts. If it's not interesting to you, then you can just log off right now. No, I'm just kidding. But we're just, it's just don't call our baby ugly because it's amazing. But we're always making updates here, and we're all we do and exist here for is helping nurses because I'm a nurse, Allison's a nurse, Joe's a nurse, and we're just making stuff that we wish we would have had
Mhm.
as new grads or as nursing students. So
And you're staying true to cutting 60% off of that studying time
yeah,
off. It's transferring directly over to this from simple nursing, from the school to
Mhm.
NCLEX now to this. It's like you don't have to go search all these different things or what's up to date, where the practice is. Like Mike's
Mhm.
put all this stuff right here for you. And you're not going to be wasting all your time trying to go to different places to find out what you don't even know what to look up.
yeah, or piece it together yourself because what they
Mhm.
say, knowledge is power, and
Mhm.
that's why people hire mentors. And Tony Robbins, one of the biggest motivational guys in the world, people will hire him, to help coach them on their business, even
Mhm.
powerful CEOs. Even Kobe Bryant and LeBron James have coaches, because
Mhm.
there's always someone that knows a little bit more than you. So that's what we're here to do. And that's where we're here to help you guys with, all for a really low price. So the last two slides here, positioning yourself into high pay fields or departments or specialties that will pay the most. Um, I know right off the bat, if you guys see on the right side, CRNA and nurse practitioners are the top two most requested. I have 5 CRNA buddies and I think a dozen family nurse practitioners that I know of, even psych NPs. We can talk about that in a moment. But really, the career benefits here is that committing to continuous education positions, you guys can enter emerging fields right at the start. From telehealth, which you can work anywhere in the world and log on and, with your patient for 30 minutes. I know my friend who is a nurse practitioner. I also had another friend who was a PA, but they were hiring nurse practitioners for a place called, it was like a dermatology place, but they prescribe medication.
Mhm.
Um, and they would get like $40 per consult. The consult was like 15, 30 minutes, and she'd have like, a dozen per day.
Mhm.
And she'd be in the Bahamas just working online. She'd be in Thailand. I'm like, dude, you're living the life, man. So answers and options are always out there, but you have to get that higher ed in order to access that. Um, and there might be less competition in certain fields. And also, highest levels of education often unlock the highest salaries, which, as you guys can see on the right-hand side, your top two are CRNAs and nurse practitioners. Do you know any? You obviously know some nurse practitioners and CRNAs.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it's huge earning potential. The weird one is I didn't know nursing midwives made that much money. That's really cool.
Mhm.
So that is awesome. All right, guys, last slide here, and then we'll do some Q&As. Networking is huge. I mean, the whole webinar we've been talking about networking. All that really means is getting a mentor or finding and modeling to be who you want to be in the future, your future self. There was that old slogan, "Be like Michael Jordan," and if you move and act like him, you're eventually going to be that person that you want to be. So, for career benefits, you guys have access to higher paying roles through the connections. It's all about who you know
Mhm.
instead of what you know. You obviously got to know the basics. You got to have your certifications. You got to have your experience.
Mhm.
But if you know a hiring manager somewhere, or if you know someone and a connection you made through a learning opportunity from a seminar to a class to a club, it can go a long way. And also, networking can connect you guys with opportunities for side income uh, through non-traditional nursing roles like teaching, speaking, mentoring. I know a lot of nurses that worked in the ER, ICU, and then also worked on the side as a home health nurse or as a dialysis nurse. And so they would do both and get paid pretty good money by being per diem on that other job, which is kind of cool. So yeah. So what are ways to implement it? And then we'll do Q&As.
So, oops.
Oh, man.
So especially joining nursing organizations, like you said, the ANA, there's some that are state specific, there's some that are more national. So that way you can get direct contact with leaders who are going to give you more opportunities, options. They'll think of you when they hear about something, especially if you make it known that you're interested in those opportunities. And so it gets your name out there and it just gets you even more connections. Also be friendly, introduce yourself to speakers. Even if it's, flattery goes a long way. Even if it's to go up, introduce yourselves and tell them, oh, I loved when you said this, I loved this and whatnot. Oftentimes that will open them up to conversations with you and to potentially opportunities or potentially even just fostering ideas. Also, peers in your classes or in those seminars, or even in new grad classes. Especially if you are in like a new grad residency program. Lots of times, they'll start a bunch of new grads at one time at different hospitals, and so making friends with people who are on other units that can be really helpful too, as well as on your own. And especially being active in professional circles. Oftentimes that can get you tied to, again, more opportunities that may not be online, that they don't even post online, and that you wouldn't have even thought of.
Hmm. Yeah.
And those people that you're meeting, that maybe they're not in management or maybe they are, like those nurses that you're meeting, those connecting, they're also going to be like, oh, what's their work ethic like? What's their
Mhm.
attitude? Because
Hmm.
that's huge.
Mhm.
And you'll change your altitude. Yes. All right. So we only have about 8 minutes left. Let's do some rapid fire questions. I'll take the first one, which I've been looking at. From anonymous attendee. So what are the most mistakes made by new grad nurses? So this is a great question. We
Mhm.
unpack this in the new grad prep course that you guys get discounts to. But the biggest mistakes are all packed inside the membership. But I think the biggest mistake that anyone ever makes is going in to your new grad prep, or sorry, your new grad position,
Mhm.
and thinking like you know everything. I had a
Mhm.
friend who got written up so bad, and she got bullied because she went in, it's like, this is not best practice. I just graduated nursing school. I know everything that is up to date. And you guys, and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, guys, no, don't do that. Have
Mhm.
big ears, big eyes, and a small mouth. The biggest recommendation is, you're in someone else's house, let's
Mhm.
say, because sometimes nurses are there on the unit for 3 days in a row. You're at the job more than you're at home during those
Mhm.
days because of the commute. And sometimes it's their home. They've been there for a decade. And who's this young spring chicken that doesn't know anything and wanting to tell us how to do our job? So
Mhm.
be careful. You don't want the mean girl club on your bad side. That's the biggest recommendation I got. All right, what
I
else?
think I was gonna say another one could be uh, like med errors can happen sometimes because you're just overwhelmed. You have so many things going on in your head, and you're trying to get organized and do things at a certain speed and whatnot. So, take the time to do double checks. That can also be another one that can happen, anywhere along your nursing career. But, being cautious, even when you're overwhelmed, even when you're stressed, even when you're exhausted, still doing those safety checks. Someone else asked, as a new grad, if you get when you get a first-time job at a SNF, a skilled nursing facility or convalescence home, what type of training should we expect prior to being sent to the floor? Oftentimes, it's you go to the floor and you are getting oriented and you're shadowing. You have a preceptor. You oftentimes with almost any floor there is like a hospital type orientation, a facility orientation first that you have to attend, or that sometimes you're attending side by side. But usually that unit specific one is going to be occurring during your orientation. Great question. Joe, what other ones do we have here?
So, how do you navigate the whole nurses eat their young? I experienced this during school and didn't get much support from our instructor. It's discouraging, especially when it comes to asking questions. So,
Mhm.
this right here, I think we all kind of touched on it a little bit, but
Mhm.
honestly, having a mentor, having someone that is a safe space, they
Mhm.
even have mentorships too that are sometimes, it's kind of a newer thing where they're
Mhm.
building them into a program, but find because culture is a huge thing, you know,
Mhm.
find who's safe. And yes, nurses can eat their young for sure.
Mhm.
So don't be a know-it-all. Don't try to give excuses. Be
Mhm.
if you need to watch some behavior videos, like Allison, Mike, and I are constantly in this thread. We're like, oh, check out this YouTube thing on how to be, this and that. It's like always
Mhm.
being willing to, how do I get along with others? What are the tips and tricks? Because sometimes we go into a conversation thinking that, oh, people know me. I can just be myself.
Mhm.
No, you could be misunderstood. Like,
Yes.
maybe you need some Botox for these little brows because you look a little upset. Oh wait, that was me. I got Botox. What?
You got
Just
like
no.
what do they call it? Resting nurse face sometimes. Like
Mhm.
Yeah.
there's been a lot of nurses where it's like everyone always comes up to me and thinking I'm mad, and I'm like, well, you kind of look mad. Like, no, I don't. I'm like, if everyone's doing it, like, have some awareness,
Right.
You may not be wearing a mask right now. I can see most of your face.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think that's a big one. All right, what else do we got here?
Last one. I'll read out loud and you can chime in
Okay,
if
yeah.
you want. Okay. In my nursing school, they offer job application RN pathway maybe to be a sent, oh, like a bridging program. They're asking me one question. Career areas of interest. What is your opinion?
Hmm.
So if you are doing in my nursing school, they offer a job application RN pathway, so a bridging program to BSN. If
Okay.
they were to ask me one question, um,
Yeah, so like
what
what specialty they want to get into, and like you can probably speak on this, Joe, because you just switched your specialties. Like, why didn't you stay at your other specialty?
well, I never wanted to be a med surg nurse. Well, adult acute care, okay. My I felt
Mhm.
it was more than med surg because we had a lot of difficult things. But let me tell you, I put out there in the universe that I wanted somewhere where I could learn. I wanted to
Mhm.
have a positive environment where it was a great culture. And
Mhm.
if I means that I had to shift my attitude and be like, okay, I'm gonna wipe butt a lot. I'm gonna change colostomies a lot. I'm gonna be doing pumps and pumps and pumps. It's not mom and baby labor and delivery that I've always kind of wanted.
Mhm.
Um, and you have to change your mindset.
Mhm.
So, you know, I would say if you can get your your area that you really want, that specialty,
Mhm.
go for it. Put it out there. Be positive. I think Allison's even said it too. Like, you can go do it. Even Mike's started in like the ED, but he had like tech experience. He was an EKG specialist. Like, yes. But but hey man, just get your feet wet, get in. And I don't regret whatsoever in hindsight going to the unit that I did for 2.5 years and now going into a specialty because I know so much more about time management and meds and the person as a
Mhm.
whole rather than like just this little thing. So
Right.
it's a journey. Just make sure
It's
you protect the license and go somewhere that's going to help you be trained and help you
Mhm.
aware. And we're going to help you be aware on how to keep your license and be a safe nurse. That's on
Mhm.
you.
Yep. And the best way to be a safe nurse is to not act like you know everything. Learn before you
Mhm.
earn. You're never going to know everything. You might be a nurse for a decade and you're still learning something new.
Mhm.
So, thank you guys so much for joining us today. We are at time. If you guys are scared about being a new grad, if you've already been a nurse for a while, we always have a lot more stuff inside the new grad prep course and more to come. And again, you guys can get it for 20% off using the discount code GRAD20 here. So again, we're just trying to help you guys be the best nurses you can be, something we wish we would have had when we were new grads. So guys, thank you again for joining us. Thanks, Joe, for being here, as well as Professor Allison. Appreciate you
Thank you
guys.
guys.
Thank
Have a
you
great
guys.
night.